Noah Hirsch came from Germany to Israel to help free Carmel Gat. The Hamas militia is holding Carmel captive in Gaza. Carmel is a great believer in yoga, and Noah is participating in a vigil for her. Noah is a close family friend, and she's working with Alon Gat, Carmel's brother. Alon is lobbying Israeli and world leaders to help release Carmel and the other Israeli hostages currently in Hamas captivity. Every Saturday evening, thousands of Israelis gather in Tel Aviv to hold a vigil for the 253 Israelis who were taken hostage by Hamas last October 7th. Alon meets up with his father at the rally. Eshel asks about Alon's recent trip to the desert. It was a chance for Alon to ease up a bit. His father seems on the surface to be okay, but both Eshel and Alon have undergone a terrible ordeal. Hamas terrorists murdered Kinneret, Alon's mother and Eshel's wife, and Carmel is still a hostage in Gaza.
I still don't have time to grieve. I'm still not there. We are still in the event. I'm still in 7th of October because my sister is still in captivity for all this time. And we still need her to be back for us to start processing these events.
The shot-out remains of Kibbutz Be'eri stand testament to the Hamas attack and massacre that took place here last October 7th. Of the 1,200 people who live here, Hamas killed 95 men, women, and children, and 35 were taken hostage to Gaza. That morning, as Hamas stormed the village, Alon was visiting his family. They hid in this fortified safe room. As gunfire rang out, Alon's sister Carmel was reading to 3-year-old Geffen, Alon's daughter, trying to keep her calm. Alon's wife Yarden, his mother Kinneret, were also in the safe room. They barricaded there for hours as the Hamas massacre raged on.
The terrorists broke into our home and they took my mother first and they took her outside and then my sister. My mother was led with 4 other people from the kibbutz and then she was shot in the street corner, just like that. They murdered my mother. And I can't tell you the reason why. Why they kidnapped one and they murdered the other, we don't know.
Hamas terrorists then kidnapped Alon, his wife Yarden, and their child Geffen. They put them in a car and started to drive towards Gaza. Yarden grabbed her daughter Geffen, and along with Alon, they broke out of the car and ran for their lives.
They decided to shoot at us, and Yarden said, take a Geffen, you can run faster. And I took Geffen with me, and I started to run faster and to look for a place to hide for all of us. While they were shooting at us, I saw Yarden hiding behind a tree. And I felt the bullets getting closer to me. I said, I have to be on the move. I have to save Geffen. And then I found a small ditch in the ground. And I put Geffen in, and me on her. I laid on her, and I covered myself with dirt and thorns and bushes so they won't see us. And we stayed like that for 8.5 hours, silence, so they won't find us.
Alon and Geffen made it back to Be'eri in the morning. He needed to know if his father survived.
My father was hiding in the bathroom in his bedroom. But for some reason, they didn't succeed to open it, so they just shot inside. And he was standing in the shower, but they didn't hit him. Miraculously, he was rescued later on that night by the army.
The grim reality began to sink in. Hamas terrorists shot his mother dead. Hamas kidnapped his wife and sister and took them to Gaza. Alon's father survived, and most importantly, Alon managed to save his 3-year-old daughter, Geffen.
I'm worried, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I am sad. I want it to be over already, because think about your family being in captivity right now for all this time, for 4.5 months in a dungeon by themselves. This is something that nobody should go through and should be over as soon as possible.
With Alon's wife Yarden and his sister Carmel taken captive, he puts his full efforts in raising Geffen, his daughter. Yarden's captivity became a national and international cause. Israeli singer Tamir Greenberg composed a song about Yarden.
People come and go.
7 weeks later, Yarden was freed in a hostage prisoner trade.
Carmel was supposed to be released the day after, but then the deal was stopped by Hamas. And it was devastating for us, for Yarden as well, because she knows what's going on in Gaza. She was there in captivity, and she knows what it is to be there even one more day.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon.
This is now known as Hostage Square in Tel Aviv. A table is set for the Sabbath meal for all the hostages. The seats are empty, waiting to be filled with their return home. A tunnel replica of Hamas's underground network gives visitors a feeling of how Carmel and other hostages are living with no sunlight, a claustrophobic environment with little oxygen. On the other side of the square is the Tel Aviv Museum of Art. Every Friday, hundreds of yoga participants gather in the rotunda, take part in a yoga session, identifying with Carmel. Carmel is a yoga specialist and an occupational therapist. When the other hostages and Alon's wife Yarden returned from captivity, they described how Carmel kept up the hostages' spirits and helped them cope with yoga and mindfulness exercises. Shai Dickman is a family cousin.
כרמל מוצאת את הכוח לעשות יוגה מהשבי ונותנת לה ולהם את התקווה, והידיעה הזאת שכרמל מוצאת את הכוח להיאחז בתקווה נתנה גם לנו מאז את הכוח ואת התקווה בעצמנו.
Noah decided to live in Israel during the hardest time possible, with the outbreak of war with Hamas. She was raised in Hamburg. Her father is native German, and her mother is from Israel. It is precisely the need to help Carmel and the other hostages which has drawn her to the Jewish state.
Ich muss sagen, seitdem ich hierher gekommen bin und mit den Geiselnfamilien auch enger zusammenarbeite und im Verhältnis zu meinem Leben davor, weil die Grenze relativ klar ist, mein Leben davor und mein Leben jetzt mit dieser Situation im Fokus, fühle ich mich wie, als wäre ich in einen neuen Körper geschlüpft, mehr oder weniger, weil sich die ganze Außenumgebung komplett verändert. Nicht nur auf einer Landesebene, also nicht, dass ich in einem anderen Land bin, aber dass alle Menschen irgendwo auf der gleichen Seite sind. Alle Menschen haben den gleichen Fokus.
Alon tries to come to yoga sessions when possible, but he spends much of his time meeting Israeli ministers and parliamentarians. He has just arrived to a family meeting after conferring with a top Israeli minister. There is a concerted international push to get a hostage deal with Hamas before the onset of the Ramadan Muslim month-long holiday.
עוד שבועיים וחצי זה נקודה מהותית במסלול.
כן.
ברמדאן זה זמן כאילו קריטי. הוא כן, לא במילים האלה, אבל הוא אמר את זה. עכשיו זה זמן איכשהו ללחוץ.
סוג של פעולה.
כן, כאילו, כן צריך עכשיו את כל הלחץ עכשיו לשים, כי זה מרגיש לי שאם זה לא עכשיו, זה עוד חודשיים בערך.
איזה לחץ אנחנו יכולים להפעיל כיוון הצד שלנו, בממשלת ישראל, או איזה לחץ אנחנו יכולים להפעיל
בחוץ.
שבסוף משפיע על חמאס, דרך קטר או דרך מצרים?
Alon and Yarden's family, along with more than 130 other hostage families, are pressing on the government not to squander this opportunity for a hostage prisoner trade with Hamas.
By putting pressure on the government itself, which means I just came back from a meeting with a minister. If the deal will get to his table, I want him to get the right decision, that he need to pay bigger prices.
For Alon, a bigger price means releasing more Palestinian prisoners in return for the hostages and agreeing to a longer ceasefire. The family has made numerous trips to Germany to generate support for the release of the hostages. Yarden's grandparents came from Germany, and the family retains German citizenship. They have turned in meetings to Chancellor Scholz and his government for help.
כל השיחות בגרמניה היו על כאילו, תדרשו מקטר לעשות צעדים מרחיקי לכת, כמו למשל, להסגיר את מנהיגי חמאס בקטר לגרמניה על זה שהם חטפו ורצחו אזרחים גרמנים.
So yeah, it's one of the ways we can prosecute Hamas people in Germany and in any other place, but the countries need to start these processes.
Es gab eine sehr große Versammlung im Oktober, nachdem es passiert ist, wo Tausende von Menschen dabei waren. Es war eine Versammlung gegen Antisemitismus und sehr viele Repräsentanten von fast allen Parteien waren dabei. Der Bundespräsident war dabei. Sie haben den Kanzler getroffen, die haben Baerbock getroffen. Also der Fokus ist hauptsächlich auf der Politik, weil die Politik ist natürlich genau da, wo man Druck setzen muss, damit was passiert.
85 years after my grandmother escaped Germany, I return here asking for your help. Alon hid with Geffen for almost 24 hours until they reached the army forces. But my sister, she didn't have enough time. She's been taken again by the terrorists.
2 days after the family meeting, Noah comes to Be'eri for the first time to truly understand firsthand what had happened. Semach, a native of Be'eri, takes her to the home where it all transpired. This is the safe room where Alon and his family hid before Hamas terrorists captured them.
זה בעצם חלון ברזל, סליחה, שאותו אפשר לנעול.
Was ich merke, physisch hier zu sein, man tritt wirklich auf das Leben der Menschen, die ihr Leben hier verloren haben, weil alles ruiniert ist. Man tritt auf die Bücher, die zerstört wurden, man tritt auf die Teppiche, die rumfliegen, auf alle persönlichen Gegenstände. Man merkt, wie viele Leben hier ruiniert wurden und verloren wurden.
Semach takes Noah across the living room where Eshel, Alon's father, hid in the washroom.
Ich denke, wenn man die Geschichten hört, wie er zum Beispiel, wie Eshel, der Vater zum Beispiel, Glück hatte, dass er einfach nicht von dieser Kugel getroffen wurde. Man merkt, wie sich innerhalb von einer Minute das Leben vieler Menschen hier so schnell geändert hat. Einige wurden innerhalb von einer Instanz, innerhalb von einer Sekunde ermordet. Andere hatten einfach nur Glück, weil sie nicht von einer Kugel getroffen wurden.
It's the next Saturday. There's another vigil in Tel Aviv. Family members urge Prime Minister Netanyahu not to miss this opportunity to reach a deal.
אנחנו מחזקים אותך, ראש הממשלה שלנו, להמשיך בדרך האמיצה שאתה מוביל, להימנע מרעשי רקע. חיילים חוזרים מלחימה, חטופים חוזרים הביתה.
There are reports Hamas is softening its stand. that it would agree to a temporary ceasefire and the release of several hundred Palestinian prisoners in return for 40 Israeli hostages.
אינטנסיבי, אבל היה טוב, נראה לי, כן.
כן, הרגשת
אי אפשר לדעת באמת מה עוזר, אבל זה... מה נשמע? קצת אופטימיות, אבל עדיין ספק.
אופטימיות זה איראן.
כן, בדיוק. תודה גדולה באמת על כולם. I'm still afraid that it won't work and it will take more time. And we don't have this time because Carmel is dying over there in captivity every day. I don't know if this deal will work. We're really hopeful it will happen in the next 2 weeks. It's like a roller coaster. There is a light in the end of the tunnel, and then it collapses and it's all dark. And we're trying to find out where the next light will come from. And yeah, it's torturing us every second.
Die Tatsache, dass wir alle zusammen hier sind, dass so viele Menschen jeden Samstag kommen und so viele Menschen jeden Samstag jetzt schreien, dass die Geiseln jetzt zurückkommen müssen, dass das der Regierung ein Zeichen setzt, dass so schnell wie möglich gehandelt werden muss. Deswegen denke ich, dass es schon einen Einfluss hat.
Across the road from Hostage Square is the Hostage Forum. It is a couple of days after the vigil. This is the headquarters for all the hostage family efforts to bring their loved ones home. Alon meets up with his friends from Kibbutz Be'eri.
I'm גפן.
גפן, בסדר, למרות שהיום היא לא רוצה ללכת לגן.
גילתה את השיטה.
עם ירדן יותר קל.
מה עם ירדן? לגן.
בסדר, יום. כן, לאט לאט.
The Hostage Forum is run by volunteers. Some of them are very influential public relations executives. One delegation is going to the UN to advocate for the hostages. Another delegation is going to the American Capitol to attend President Biden's address to the joint sessions of the House of Representatives. Ruby Chen is part of the delegation to Washington. His son Itai is also a German citizen. He was a soldier on the border on October 7th and was captured by Hamas. 5 months have gone by and there's not a sign of life from Itai. But Ruby has received Israeli reports that Itai is alive in captivity. A visiting delegation from Britain has come to the forum. They meet with Ruby and other hostage family members to see how they can contribute.
I think we all want to see the international community behind us on this to get it solved. And I'd urge you to look at Germany that went out and boycotted Hamas as an organization. And I would urge you going back to Great Britain and going back to your parliament members and asking them, where does the UK stand? After 149 days, we're looking for a resolution.
We're sitting here, we're listening to you. I can feel it, but it's not me. Where you're sitting is what I'm feeling times 100.
So we are breathing very deeply, very slowly these weeks, and we understand that you I guess too, don't have all the details.
You have people that are communicating with you, and then that gets communicated up the chain. Do you feel that your word is getting really mamash to where it needs to get? So
go to your parliament members, go to your cabinet members. Ask them, what have you done today for the hostages? How do you get them out? You wake up each morning and you think that you might be in a different place, but then you wake up and reality smacks you in the face. And you understand this is my new reality that I need to live in. And you have a couple of options. You could say, you know what, wake me up when it's all done. Or you could say, as a New Yorker, we're taught to fight. And we fight back and do whatever we can to the best of our ability.
Since his son Itai is a German citizen, Ruby has met with German leaders and lobbied for their assistance in freeing his son and the other hostages.
Germany that has very good financial ties to Turkey. And Turkey has been known to be funneling money to Hamas. And we believe that Germany could put more pressure on Turkey that would indirectly put pressure on Hamas.
The negotiations between Hamas and Israel are bogged down again. The Muslim holiday of Ramadan has begun, and there is still no hostage deal. The Hostage Forum is raising national awareness with a Stretchers March. The stretchers symbolize support for the hostages, carrying them as they would carry wounded in a war. Ruby is even more concerned for the welfare of his son. He fears Itai is a pawn in a cynical international bargaining game.
ואנחנו מבקשים מעם ישראל לרדת מתחת לאלונקה ביחד איתנו ולעזור לנו להביא את החטופים, את כל החטופים למקום מבטחים ולשמור עליהם ולהביא אותם חיים חזרה הביתה. ראש הממשלה כל הזמן מדבר על הביטוי ניצחון מוחלט. אני אומר, הניצחון המוחלט אך ורק יקרה עם החזרת החטופים חיים. אם החטופים לא חוזרים חיים, אין ניצחון מוחלט. להפך, יש כישלון מוחלט.
Listening to the speech is Israel's War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz.
אנחנו כאן איתכם במסע המאוד מאוד מוצדק הזה, מאוד מאוד חשוב הזה, שמדבר לליבות האנשים ומעמיד במודעות מוחלטת ורציפה את חשיבות השבתם של הבנים והבנות הביתה.
With Prime Minister Netanyahu's popularity at an all-time low, Gantz is favored to become the next prime minister in the next election. Benny Gantz has been coined Israel's national guardian. Israelis fear Netanyahu is stonewalling a hostage deal to placate the right-wing hardliners in his coalition government, who oppose giving up Palestinian prisoners for hostages. Benny Gantz is pressuring Netanyahu to keep the return of the hostages a major strategic goal.
This is a very important uniting march for the hostages, and we're looking forward to have them all back. So we will continue to fight, and we will continue to do everything in our capacity to bring them home. It's very important event. Thank you very much.
Itai, our son, today, we know he is alive. We do not know if he will be alive a week from now, a day from now, an hour from now. There's a sense of urgency. There is a deal that has been negotiated and is on the table. Bring it to the finish line.
Noah and Alon are marching as well. Alon is telling Noah about another meeting with an Israeli minister. He said the impending offensive to destroy the last Hamas divisions in Rafah will be delayed for a while because of the need to move hundreds of thousands of Palestinians out of the area to avoid more civilian casualties. That may give more time for the negotiations to free the hostages and get a ceasefire.
בעצם יש זמן כנראה עד שייכנסו לרפיח, ושמזה אנחנו בעצם יכולים להיות פחות לחוצים על זה שייכנסו לרפיח ובעצם יטרפדו את המשא ומתן.
כן, כן.
אז זה קצת הרגיע אותנו, אולי אפשר להגיד. אני צריך לראות עם המשא ומתן עכשיו, אם זה יעבוד.
ומה הוא אמר לגבי המצב עכשיו עם העסקה?
לא יודע, לא אמר לנו בדיוק, נכנס לפרטים לגבי זה. אבל עכשיו פה פגשנו את גנץ וטרופר, אז אני מקווה שהם עושים את כל מה שהם יכולים בשביל להגיע לעסקה.
Die Menschen hier fokussieren sich sehr auf den Punkt, dass am Anfang bei dem ersten Deal zum Beispiel sind 50 Tage vergangen und die Geiseln sind zurückgekommen und waren körperlich geschwächt, aber mental auch unfassbar unfassbar geschwächt. Und jetzt sind dreimal so viele Tage vergangen und niemand weiß, wie es denen geht. Niemand weiß, wer am Leben ist und wer nicht. Und das ist, was hier verdeutlicht wird. Das heißt, mit dieser Betonung hat diese Versammlung eine unfassbar wichtige Bedeutung, weil es um Leben und Tod geht.
I feel Carmel all the time when I'm walking here, so I see her photo and I feel her with me all the time. I want her to be physically with me as well. This is the natural things to do, to bring the hostages back home.
חברים, תפנו לנו בבקשה.
10 days later, Ruby and his family received a terrible blow. The army informed them their son Itai was killed and that his body is being held by Hamas in Gaza. Thousands of Israelis joined Ruby and his family on this ceremonial walk to a synagogue. Since he cannot bury his son, Ruby and his family were holding a special ceremony in Itai's memory. Ruby says he will continue his fight to free the Israeli hostages, those that are alive and those that are no longer living but held by Hamas.
We've been blessed as a U.S. citizens to get such a big hug and support, starting with President Biden, all the way to the Vice President, Secretary of State. And he said, Itai made a difference. You guys made a difference. So many people were touched by him and by my family, and we have the ultimate task of bringing him back home. And I believe that's what they're gonna do, as well as the state of Israel, because that is the moral Jewish thing to do, to bring him back to burial. When I said that to the President of the United States, he understood. He gave a promise. He'll bring him back.
The American president found the time to call Ruby. No Israeli ministers found the opportunity to express any condolences. It's indicative of the tension between Prime Minister Netanyahu and the hostage families. The Prime Minister feels he must deal tough with Hamas. The families fear he's torpedoing a deal. Itai's death has raised the stakes for the hostage families. Ramadan has come. The talks were bogged down. But now they have resumed. And with every day that passes, there is a growing hope of a deal and growing fear Israel might miss the chance to free their loved ones. The families and their supporters have gathered by the thousands outside of Prime Minister Netanyahu's residence to stress there is no time left. The hostages, they say, must be released now.
We are in a critical point because the hostages are too much time in captivity, and my sister Carmel is over there in captivity and suffering every second over there. And we need to bring them as soon as possible. And now, if there won't be a deal, and the negotiations will break down in the next few days, so maybe it will be in another month, and we don't have this time because they are dying there, literally dying there every day.